don't like that term pastor. Makes me feel old. Of course, then I am old, so I guess that's all right. But it's good to be here with you. Linda and I, my wife Linda's here with me. We've been married 37 years, and 36 of those have been great. 1 year I was an idiot, but other than that, it's all right. No, we lived in Corsicana back from 1990 to 94. I was youth pastor at First Baptist Corsicana, and actually this church started a couple of years after I left First Corsicana, so I've watched this church through the years, and Steve and Kim have been real good friends of ours. Kim was one of my youth volunteers when I lived in Lake Charles, and she always told me about Steve. I never met him. I thought he was her invisible boyfriend, and then when I finally met him, I told her, I said, you probably need to keep him invisible because I don't know if that's good or not. Anyway, she didn't listen to me. She ended up marrying him, and we become good friends through the years. And Steve was an intern for me when I was at Lake Point, and I watched him and I watched this church grow, and it's just so cool. I was sitting there thinking a while ago, goodness, y'all took 80 kids to children's camp. I remember when you ran 80. It's incredible what God's done here, and I'm so proud of Steve and what he's done in his leadership, and I know you love him, and we miss him today, and we're glad he could be here. Steve and Kim came over this spring and went through Re-Engage with my wife and I, and so y'all starting Re-Engage here this fall, and I'm excited for you about that. If your marriage is good and you want it to be better, go through Re-Engage. Your marriage is bad and you want it to be better, go through Re-Engage. Wherever you are in your marriage, you need to go through Re-Engage. It will be something that will change your marriage forever. And Lynn and I have been through it like 5 or 6 times, and every time we go through it, we learn something new. And we're excited about y'all starting that this fall. But today I want to talk about when you get older, you begin to kind of look at your life and go, okay, I don't have and I'm not, I got a long time left, hopefully. But you start thinking about, what matters. You're a little bit more, your time's a little more valuable. So when you get an opportunity to speak, when you get an opportunity to do something, you go, okay, I want to do something that matters today. And so I want to talk today about leaving a legacy, because I believe that all of us are going to leave a legacy. My dad's one of my heroes. My dad's 86 years old. He still goes to work every day. He volunteers. That's his job. He volunteers. He runs a food bank in Pilot Point, Texas called the Shepherd Storehouse. He's been doing that for almost 30 years now, volunteering. And I asked him one day, I said, Dad, you got to find somebody to take your place, because you're not going to be around here forever. He goes, well, nobody wants to do it because you don't get paid anything. And I'm like, well, I know, but somebody's got to be out there. And the truth of the matter is, he doesn't want to quit because he loves doing it. I'm like, okay, keep on doing it. It scares me to death that he drives a truck pulling a trailer at 86. That scares me. But, it doesn't scare me when I'm not on the road. It's just if I was on don't go to Denton County when he's driving. That's what I'm saying. Anyway, my dad taught me a lot of things, and he is one of my heroes. And when I was growing up, you find yourself repeating things that your dad said. Anybody else do that? If your dad was like my dad said things that I don't know what they meant, but I repeat them. My youngest son told me not long ago, he says, Dad, I'm gonna write a book with all the things that you say that don't make sense. And I was like, well, here's the problem with that. I just repeat what my dad said. He goes, I know, because I said, so a few things, he said things like, if I say jump, you say how high. That was one of the ways that we just did what he said. You understood what he meant. He would say if a frog had wings, it wouldn't bump his butt when he jumped. I don't know what that means. But I remember going, yeah, okay. Because I'd say, well, if we could just do this. He'd go, well, if a frog had wings, it wouldn't jump his butt when he jumped. And I was like, okay, yeah, that makes sense. And, he would say things like, if a chicken dips snuff, if I say a chicken dips snuff, you just look under his wing for the can. Anybody ever heard that before? That's an old Southern saying. I didn't know a chicken dips snuff. I know snuff comes in a can, but I would have never thought to look under the wing for the can, because that's where they keep it. My dad would say things like that, and I'd just go, okay, and go on. And then I remember when I was a little kid, I used to always bite my fingers, right here. And my dad told me one day, he goes, son, you need to quit doing that. You had an aunt that died of cancer from doing that. And I just remember as a kid going, oh gosh, I got to quit doing that. And so I quit doing it. And so years later, like when I'm 30 or so, I'm biting my fingers one day and I went, wait a minute. My dad only had one aunt, and I knew her, and she did not die from cancer from biting her fingers. My dad lied to me the whole time, and I'm going, wait, what else have I believed that my dad told me? And we do that. We kind of grow up and we listen and we hear these things and we just do them because dad said it, and you believe your dad because you want to believe everything your dad says is true. And I know with my kids, I taught them one time that, the blink of the little light that comes on when you put the brights on. I told them I was magic and I could push that, and the light would come. I say abracadabra, and I'd push the button and the light would come on, and they go, how'd you do that, Dad? And I go, well, magic. And now they're doing that with their kids. It's just, you do those things. And so you're going to leave a legacy. I don't know what it's going to be, but we're all going to leave a legacy. And let me just say this up front to all of you parents out there, okay? At some point, your kids are going to sit around and talk about you. They're going to talk about you, the good stuff you did, the best. My kids sit around and talk about me and the things I say and the things I believe in and the things I listen to and the things I wear. They sit around and do that. They have side texts with each other, Like I'll be talking to them and I'll find out that they're over here talking about me while we're talking to them. Now y'all don't do that, I know. I know nobody who does it. But it's all, and here's the deal. That's never going away. By the way, that stuff you post on social media, it does not go away. And people do see it. There's a lot of people that post stuff on social media and go, well, I'm just going to put this out there. It's what I believe. And they don't think anybody sees it. Everybody sees it. And everybody, including everybody that's close to you, shakes their head and go, oh gosh, I wish they wouldn't put that on social media. You're going to be remembered for what you said and what you did and all that stuff. But I don't want you to be remembered for just what you said, because I don't think that's what people are going to really remember. I remember those things about my dad. He said those things. What I remember about my dad is my dad worked his whole life and he loved Jesus and he taught me to love Jesus and he taught me to serve people and he serves people to this day. That's how I'm going to remember my father. Amen. And that's what's important. And we want to talk about that today, about how to leave a legacy for the next generation in your life. There's a story in 2 Chronicles chapter 34, verses 1 to 3. And it's the story of King Josiah. Now, King Josiah is one of my favorite kings because he's one of the few kings in the Old Testament who really lived a good life. Y'all have been studying about David, and David was a great king, and I believe that, David was a great king because he was a man after God's own heart. And when I lived here in Corsicana, I was in a Bible study group with a guy named Mike Gage and a guy named Harvey Fisher, and we sat around and we talked around the table. And one day the question came up, why was David a man after God's own heart? I'll never forget what Mike Gage says. He says, I believe David was a man after God's own heart because he understood how to get forgiveness. When he screwed up, he went to God and said, I have blown it. I'm sorry. Please forgive me. And he didn't keep doing it. He was a man after God's own heart. And that's what I want to be. When I die, if they don't put anything else in my tombstone, I want them to put, he was a man after God's own heart. That sums it up. That's what I want in my life. That's what I want my children to remember. That's what I want my grandchildren to remember. That's what I want people who know me to remember. He was a man after God. Now, he wasn't perfect. My dad wasn't perfect. But he loved God. And he loved others. And that's what we mean. Josiah is one of those kind of guys. It says in 2 Chronicles verse 34, 1 to 3, it says, Josiah was 8 years old when he became king. And he reigned in Jerusalem for 31 years. He did what was right in the eyes of the Lord and followed the ways of his father David, not turning aside to the right or to the left. And in the 8th year of his reign, which would have made him, 16? While he was still young, he began to seek the God of his father David. And in his 12th year, he began to purge Judah and Jerusalem of high places and Asherah poles and idols. There's a guy who, as young as he was, understood young in his life what his purpose was. Somebody had taught him to do that, and he began to seek God and to follow him in everything he did. And so what's written about him is he was a king of reform. A few years ago, I did a funeral for a family, and this family, when I went to visit them, they were members of our church, but they didn't really come very often. They were just kind of fringe people, and so they didn't really know any of the pastors of the church, and so I was that person that did those kind of funerals, and so I went and visited with them. And I went to their place of business that they had built for years and years and years and years, and they had an extended family. And I sat down with them and I said this. I said, tell me about your father. And he said, he was a good man. He loved to fish. He did this and this and this and this, and he really loved to fish and all this. And I said, okay, so tell me about the grandkids. What is the most important thing he ever taught your grandkids? are your kids? And the guy looked at me and he thought for a minute, he goes, he taught them how to fish. And I just remember leaving there with a broken heart in my mind because I thought, that's all you got? He taught them how to fish? Because I was thinking about I was just starting to have grandkids, and I was like, I don't want my kids, that's not the thing I want them to remember most about me, is I taught them how to fish. And I said, okay, well, tell me about his faith. Well, he didn't go to church because, he fished on the weekends, but when he was young, he went to church and he went to all this stuff. But I never could get that phrase out of my mind. He taught them how to fish. And that's all they could say. And I had to stand up in front of the church and I had to talk about, this man and about his life. And the only thing they could remember is he taught them how to fish. And he had this business. He'd grown this big business and all this stuff. He had all this money and acquired all this stuff. He taught them how to fish. And I thought about that forever. And I was like, man, I don't want to be, that's not what I want my life to be one of these days. And so I want you to understand that today. I'm going to give you about 4 things that you can do that you've got to remember about leaving a legacy because it's that important. Josiah was known as a guy who was a reformer. He did stuff. So the first thing is, it's not what you say, it's what you do. My dad said a lot of stuff and it was crazy stuff, and but what I remember is not what he said. That's not what goes in mind. It's what he's done with his life. And it's Josiah, it's what he did with his life. When he was 8 years old, he became king. When he was 20 years old, he repaired the temple. He reinstated the Passover feast about 4 or 5 years later than that. And then when he died, Jeremiah lamented over him. It actually says in Scripture, I wrote it down. Jeremiah composed laments for Josiah, and to this day, all the male and female singers commemorate Josiah in the laments. These became a tradition in Israel and are written in the laments to this day. Here's a man that Jeremiah, who was a prophet, was so impressed by Josiah's life that he wrote laments about it, and they're still today, they say they're still part of Jewish tradition because of the man Josiah was. It's not what you say, it's what you do. Here's the thing about Josiah that's most amazing. He died when he was 31 years of age. He was 31 years of age when he died. He died on the battlefield fighting for his men. It's not what you say, it's what you do. That's what's important. It's what you're doing with your life. Your kids don't care how much stuff you got. They care what you're doing with it and how you're investing in them and how you're spending your time. And what matters most is that you have a relationship with God and you're teaching them that. That's what makes a difference. Your character makes a difference more than your possessions make a difference. It's not what you get, it's not what you say, it's what you do. Secondly, it's not what you get, it's what you leave behind. His legacy was a legacy of reform. You can't take it with you. I was watching a show just last night about a crime thing that happened, and it says that the guy was buried and him and his wife were killed. He was buried and his wife was cremated and she was put in the casket with him so that they could stay together for eternity. And I thought, I'm not sure, because I just heard a message yesterday about that when we're in heaven, we're not going to be married. When we're in heaven, we're going to know who they are, but the Bible says we're not married, And I'm going, we do all these things to try to take stuff with us. My little brother's a mortician, so I grew up in a funeral home family, which makes me a sick person, I know, and we have a lot of sick jokes, and death doesn't bother us like it does other people, because you get kind of used to that. But I've heard him tell these stories about what people try to take with them. They will be buried with their watch. They'll be buried with their, favorite stuffed animal. I mean, just no matter, their dog, whatever. They take because they think they're going to be able to take it with them. Guys, we're not. I've never seen a hearse with a U-Haul behind it. You just don't take it with you. It's not going to go with you. It's not what you get. It's what you leave behind. Luke 9:25 says this. What good is it for someone to gain the whole world and yet lose or forfeit their very self? So what good is it to gain the whole world and yet lose your soul? And we try to acquire all this stuff and we work hard and we do all this stuff because we've got to get all this stuff. And the thing that amazes about those people that work that hard, they never get a chance to enjoy it. Lynn and I are empty nesters, and if you're an empty nester, you know what we mean. We love being empty nesters, and those of you that got young kids, one day they will all leave. Now teach them to be responsible so when they leave they don't come home Because 65% of all kids over 18, when they go off to college, they come back home now. That's a bad parenting thing. Ours didn't come back home. We moved, changed the locks. We raised them not to come back home. And Lynn and I love the empty nest. We love going and doing and just picking up whenever we want to. And I know some of you are going, oh, that'd be so great. Well, one day you will get to do it. I promise. It's a blast. But we sit there sometimes and go, okay, we're gonna leave this stuff to our kids. They don't want it. We got all this junk in our house. I'll tell my kids, hey, if y'all want something, go ahead and take it. And they go, Dad, get rid of it before y'all go, because we don't want to mess with it. Now, some of y'all know exactly what I'm talking about. Linda's mom, she's got stuff all over her house, and we go in and say, I told Linda, I said, don't get your mom anything else unless you want it, because it's going to come back to you. And we just keep buying it, and just accumulating all this stuff. And one day it's just all we got. My mom, before she died, she had Parkinson's. She would put little dots on the stuff that we'd say we wanted. She'd go ahead and put our name on it. Just to save the time and save the problem. There was a clock in there and my name on it, the dot, and we just get so wrapped up on this stuff that we just keep acquiring. And one day, we can't take it with us. It's not how you start. It's how you finish. That's what we got to remember. It's not what you got, it's what you leave behind. It's not how you start, it's how you finish. In 2 Timothy 4:7 it says, I've fought the good fight. I've finished the race. And I've kept the faith. You see, it's how you finish this life that matters. You may have started this life and go, I just had a bunch of stuff and oh my gosh, and it doesn't matter. It's how you finish this life that matters. And you may be in a point right now where your relationship with your kids is bad, or your relationship with your parents is bad, or you've got just all this stuff going on. You know what? You can start today working on that. Because that's what God does. It's not how you start, it's how you finish this life. I'm always remembering the two people, O.J. Simpson and then Chuck Colson. Now the two stories, the story of O.J. Simpson and Chuck Colson. Okay, O.J. Simpson, I remember we were here in Corsicana whenever he was being chased 20 miles an hour in that white Bronco. We were at David and Dana Taylor's house. We were on vacation, came out to visit them, and we were sitting there watching this. We were all just staring at this TV, watching this Bronco go down the freeway. That says something about us right there, okay, that we did that. But then you watch what happened to him. He went through that whole trial and all that stuff. Then he went to prison, and he was in prison, and he got out of prison. He went back in prison. He's done all this stuff. And his life ever since then has just been kind of circling the drain almost. Then you look at somebody like Chuck Colson, who went to prison because of the Nixon thing way back there. And while he was in prison, he met Jesus. And he got out of prison. He started this prison ministry where his whole life was about getting other prisoners out of that darkness and helping them come to know Christ. His whole life, he left a legacy of leading people to Christ who were in the situation he was in. Why? Because he realized it's how you finish, it's not how you start. And he committed his life to that, to finish that way. And the fourth thing is, it's not what you did, it's what you're going to do from here on. John Ortberg is one of my favorite writers and speakers, and he tells his story of when he was a little kid. He used to always go and play Monopoly with his grandmother. And he said he would go there and he would spend the summers with his grandmother, and they would play Monopoly all the time. And he said she would just beat him like crazy in Monopoly. He said she would he'd get all the land, she'd get all the houses, she'd get all the stuff and all the money, and he would just go home so frustrated because she would just beat him every time. So one time he got a little older, he decided, when I go home, I am going to become a master at Monopoly. So he played Monopoly all year, and he learned the strategies, and he practiced, and he did all this stuff. So he came back to his grandmother's house the next summer, and he started playing, and he just waxed her. And he said, my grandmother taught me something that day that she'd never taught me before. She was waiting for this moment, where she looked at me, and I had all this stuff, and she goes, John, one other thing you need to learn about Monopoly. At the end of the game, it all goes back in the box. No matter what you do with it, at the end, it all goes back in the box. And guys, that's what it is with our lives. At the end, it all goes back in the box. And if you're trying to, if you're working on that right there, you say, I'm just going to keep, and then one day I'm going to enjoy it. No, it all goes back in the box. It's not what you did, it's what you do from here on that matters. You see, you have a decision to make. I can continue doing what I'm doing, and one day people look back and say, that was, he taught me how to fish. Or you can say, you know what, my life is going to make a difference, and I'm going to keep not just acquiring, I'm going to keep doing something on purpose in my life. And that's what I love about Jesus, because when Jesus comes into your life, regardless of your past, there's this thing called grace. And when He applies that grace to your life can make a difference regardless of your age. You can start today. One of my favorite things I learned several years ago is this. The longer you do the right thing, the quicker people forget the bad things you did. The longer you do the right things, the sooner people forget the bad things you did. So you can do like Chuck Colson. Chuck Colson was a bad guy. He went to prison, but he began to do the right thing. He continued to do that. And today we don't really remember that stuff he did way back there. We remember what the lives he changed and the lives he invested in. And that's what happens to us. It's called grace. 3 things about grace that I love that can make you leave a legacy. First of all, when you experience God's grace, you begin to have a purpose for your life. There's a purpose for why am I doing what I'm doing? There's a purpose for it. I'm not out here trying to accumulate this wealth for this. No, my purpose is I want to have a purpose in my life. It's not mine. Lynn and I just got through going through Dave Ramsey again, and we were sitting there and we've been looking at all this stuff. We're going, you know what? This isn't mine. God's just got me. I get to manage this stuff for Him. So what do we got to do different? I told her today, we got to sit down now. We got the debt paid off. We got to sit down and say, okay, what can we live on so we can use this other stuff to do something to bless somebody else? You see, it's not about us. It never has been about us. It's about glorifying God. And our life needs to be one of those lives. We need to be purposeful with our lives. Second thing is we need to invest in others, don't just acquire. I look at these people that went to camp this summer, and you don't understand what an impact those adults that go to camp make on those kids' lives. Your former youth pastor, Jason White, whenever I was in Corsicana way back there, I had a group of students that I met with every Wednesday morning. We meet at McDonald's at like 6:30. And Jason White came to that meeting. He didn't go to our church. He came to that meeting, and we would sit there, and I would just look around the room with those high school guys and go, what's God done in your life this week? And I honestly, be honest with you, if y'all know Jay, he's pretty quiet. And so he came up to me several years later and goes, Wayne, you don't really remember this, but I used to be in your group. I was like, really? He goes, yeah, when you're in Corsicana. He said, I didn't go to your church, but I would come with my friends. We'd come to you, we'd sit around there. He goes, I never forgot what you asked me. You looked at me and said, what's God do in your life? And I had to answer that question with, don't even know who that is, really. He said, I gave my life to Christ, after that and all this stuff. And you never know the impact you're having on somebody's life. Amen. Until you start living your life on purpose. And I get the privilege every once in a while. Last night I got a message from some friends, some kids that said, hey, we got back together and we were just sitting here talking about the things you used to teach us and how much an impact you had on life. And I was like, whoa, I had no idea. You never know. But when you live your life on purpose and you invest in others, not just acquiring things. None of them have ever said, hey, I really appreciate that stuff you bought us. It's not what they say. I appreciate the time you spent with us. Is what they say. Third thing is you got to teach the things that matters. You got to teach people the things that matter. Some of you got life experiences that you need to be using. Some of you need to be leading some re-engage groups this fall because God has done some incredible things in your marriage and people need to know. You see, God doesn't waste your pain. If you've been through some stuff, part of your healing process is to tell somebody what God did in that. That's part of your healing process. You need to teach people the things that matter in your life. Don't just teach them how to fish. My next door neighbor when I lived in Grandview, Texas, his name was Jack Wilson. Jack taught me how to fish. My dad, we used to fish. We'd get a cane pole and fish with brim and stuff like that. But Jack taught me how to bass fish. But you know what the thing about that was? He taught me how to bass fish. What I love more than anything about that was just going to the lake with him and just talking. We were fishing. But he was like a father to me almost. Because he just come out and he never judged me. He was a deacon in our church. I was youth pastor. We would talk about stuff. He never judged. He just listened. And he invested in me. And I will always be thankful for that. Who are you investing in? Some of you need to be working in the children's ministry. You need to be working in the student ministry. Because you've got some stuff. There was a girl that was in our youth group that was, she made an impression on us like, we sent her home several times from camp, And She told me one time, she goes, I really need to, she goes, I could never go to camp. I said, you'd be the best counselor at camp ever. Because you know everything you know what they're doing. Because you did it all. And she goes, I never thought about that. I said, no, you've got something to offer. I said, you'd be a perfect camp counselor. Nobody's going to get away with anything with you. Because you've done it. And we forget sometimes that God, we go through those things and God redeems us and God saves us. And we can use those things in other people's lives. And we can leave a legacy that matters. Don't just be somebody that when the pastor stands up, give him something good to say about you. Don't make him have to make up stuff. Live a life that other people look at and go, I want to be like that. I want to be a person like Josiah that they lamented after for years and years, and he's a part of their tradition because of the life he lived. Don't just be someone who taught somebody how to fish. Live a life that honors God and loves other people. Let's pray. Thank you, God, for this morning. Thank you for grace. Thank you for this church, God, and that's the principle it stands on. God, thank you that you will take us wherever we are, and you can help us from this day forward to leave a legacy that other people will look at and say, I want to be like that person. Thank you for your forgiveness, God. Thank you for your renewing of our lives. And God, thank you that there have been people in our life that have left legacies that we can look up to and say, I want to be like that person, God. Give us that same desire. Let us be like Josiah. Let us make a difference in the lives of people around us. In your name I pray. Amen.